Off top, the state of Wyoming only has 2 sets of escalators in the whole damn state. Play the music.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.
Welcome to the Domonique Foxworth Show, presented by Allstate, joined as always by the snack Charlie Kravitz, and we have a special in-studio guest. Danny Heifetz of the Ringer Fantasy Football Show is here. Welcome, sir.
Thank you for having me, man. I'm honored.
A lot of pressure.
Yeah, well.
You're in studio. We have no excuses. We need top tier. Whatever you're going to do on the Ringer Show, give it to us first, and then they get the leftovers, okay?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
I'm just excited to have someone from a podcast that I actually listen to. This is great.
Insults to all the other people who we've had on here
right.
for their podcast.
Eat it, Rosillo.
I listen to Ryan sometimes.
You learn about some Civil War history from his
Make fun
reading.
of my friends. Don't make fun of my friends' tater face.
The Spain travelogues.
Yeah.
I love it.
I actually really like this Spain travel. This is pretty incredible.
Football time.
All right, football time. We have to start sort of on a sad note. The Lions eviscerated the Cowboys today, which I was coming in ready to be incredibly excited about. I think we were all in the group text and we thought, oh, this is a coronation. Are we sure the Lions are not the best team in the NFL, Super Bowl bound? But their pass rusher, Aidan Hutchinson, who was leading the NFL in sacks, went down with a horrendous broken leg, which he immediately had to have surgery on in Dallas. And I want to ask both of you guys, this team still looks like a wagon, but they've had defensive issues with their pass rush.
Yeah.
And how does an injury like this change their season moving forward, their outlook to you guys?
Yeah, I've been always a bit it's taken me some time to come around on the Lions as legitimate contenders, in large part because I felt like Aidan Hutchinson was all alone and that pass rush was going to be the death of them. So not having Aidan Hutchinson, obviously it's incredibly terrible for him. Unfortunate. I hope all the surgeries go well and all the things that we saw for his career still can pan out. But for the Lions, this feels like it really, really diminishes their chances, especially given the fact that they didn't have a complete pass rush with him. Now they want to play tight, aggressive man coverage defense. You need a pass rush to live that life, especially in the playoffs, and it's not getting any stronger. I don't know who will be available in the trade market, but it feels like they're going to have to do something to compensate for that loss on defense. What do you think, Danny?
Well, I mean, yeah, to your point about getting a pass rusher in the trade market, Max Crosby shoved a coach today. They could just corner the market on all the white defensive ends. You know what I mean? Just get that locked down. But no, I mean, it's a really huge deal. I mean, here's the deal. I think that I really actually thought entering today, the Lions were the Super Bowl favorites. I thought obviously at halftime when they were up a cajillion to 9 or whatever, that they were the Super Bowl favorites. And not just because they're really good, but they were really healthy entering today. They had everybody on the team practiced on Friday. I can't remember the last time I saw that. And this is not like the sexiest football analysis. Healthy teams win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Like most of the time, the teams that make the Super Bowl are the 2 healthiest good teams left. Like the Chiefs-Eagles Super Bowl, I think 21 of 22 starters were on each team. The Bengals-Rams team had 1 starter was missing from both sides. Like in the whole game, 1 starter was missing. The Eagles won that one in 2017 with all the injuries. That's the exception that proves the rule. Yeah. And entering today, I thought the Lions were by far the healthiest team. And to your point, it's tough when you have injuries that actually mess with your identity, not just from a personnel thing, but from a schematic, like can we even do what we've been practicing?
I mean, I'm not sure. I think I landed on Jared Goff being probably the most important person on that team, barely. Like Aidan Hutchinson, I think because Jared Goff is the quarterback, you have to give him the respect that you give all quarterbacks, that recovering from losing a quarterback means a lot more. But I can't think of anybody else on that team that I think is more valuable and more integral to what they're doing going forward than the one guy who leads the league in pressures and sacks and is the centerpiece of that defense that they all build around.
Did you ever play on a team where you had a single injury where you're like, holy
No, never. No. I'm sorry. I should have said, yeah, that would have been a much more interesting place to go.
Yeah.
I sprained my ankle in high school once.
So did I. You don't have to be an athlete to do that.
I know, but he was talking about a team that was like, hey, you know what?
The implication that you're the best player.
I feel confident. I do feel confident that on a random high school football team, you injuring your ankle is a bigger deal than anything.
Oh my God.
Hey, tape that up. Went for $2 bills. Don't worry about it.
Psychologically,
in high school,
I do think it was interesting that the way that the Lions handled that psychologically, though, in that game, because they were like, all right, we're still going to try and get every single one of our offensive linemen a touchdown in that game. 3 offensive linemen were the recipients of a
Can we? Yeah,
pass.
I mean, just because Aidan Hutchinson's injury is terrible.
Yeah.
We did the stuff that we had to do about that. Can we transition to how funny and fun this was?
Oh yeah. Oh, it was glorious to watch.
They were trying their best to get an offensive lineman a touchdown. They were running trick plays in the second half up by 30 points. They were throwing the ball.
Back shoulder to Dan Skipper.
A slot fade.
Do you guys remember Cardell Jones, and he was the Ohio State quarterback?
Oh yeah.
And they were like,
Third string.
yeah.
You don't
And they
come
were
here to
like,
play school?
yeah, you don't come to play school. And they were like, did you beat a kid in the cancer ward 92-7? And he was like, no. It was 92-7 with 2 minutes left. I beat him 99-7. That's how the Lions play football, dude. The Lions are playing like you're a 12-year-old in video games trying to beat the crap out of your friend. And like they're just throwing, like they tried to do first of all, they had Taylor Decker and Dan Skipper from the whole ineligible controversy last year. They had both eligible on the same play. Then they did it again, and they threw the ball to Taylor Decker, even though he was totally blanketed.
Yeah.
Like the least separation there's ever been.
So let me say this, Daddy. As you guys know, coaches love practice. They think it is so important because it is. And practice time is limited. We only have so much we can prepare for. They are not doing a lot of repeats and run it back because we got to get on to this next thing. They watched that Cowboys film and were like, this team's so sorry that we are going to practice a play. We're going to spend practice time practicing a play where we got an offensive lineman lined up at receiver. And that's not going to be the only time where we line a lineman up as receiver. We also are going to throw a slot fade to a tackle.
A speed option.
We are going to try to pitch.
Sewell.
We're going to try to pitch the ball to Penei Sewell. They spent multiple periods in practice. They probably had a full period on Wednesday where they just had a the Cowboys period. This is a whole period where we just going to do that we can pull out.
Sorry, I messed that up. It was a short hook. It was a screen hook and ladder to Penei Sewell. Even better. Sorry. Apologies to you, Ben Johnson.
I love that they just have that much in the bag too, where they're just like, yeah, you know, we're just gonna burn all these right now. Plenty more where that came from.
And I was imagining that post game. I mean, sadly, there was no fireworks between the coaches, but that's when the coaches. Could you imagine if they did that to Jim Harbaugh? Like, Jim Harbaugh wouldn't have stood for that. There'd have been fisticuffs on the field.
Do you remember the power slap with Jim Schwartz against the Lions?
Oh, that was the Lions.
Yeah.
I remember the power slap. I'm not sure we're going to rank coaches, but I think we know who the number one coach is that would not react well to having to score run up on him like that.
Yeah, no, I mean, he doesn't like the runs, right?
We'll get there. We will get there.
Oh, I like that. What a great.
Oh, that's
team.
So. We have more on this game, but to set up the rest of the show, we're going to do a game that we've played a few times, or a format based on Tim Robinson's. You sure about that? This is, are we sure? Basically, the Cowboys were the other side of this. Dominique's a diehard Cowboys fan. He has 2 flags that are coming out of his car.
Yep.
Jean shorts, Dak jersey, all that stuff.
The helmet's on the way.
Yeah.
Jean shorts.
He's ordered a new
Jean
team.
shorts. Jean shorts. The Cowboys fan
You don't know
thing.
about this? The Cowboys fan uniform is jean shorts. The star on the shoulder Cowboys jersey.
Is this from like the Netflix doc with the
No,
cheerleaders?
this is
or,
just like if you ever see like
Cowboy
the
in the
rush into Jerry World. There's just
It's just a lot of
thousands of Texans in jean shorts and
A lot of
Cowboys
jorts.
jerseys. Yeah.
Is that because it's a thing, or is that just because that was the style in
In
the
the
last
90s?
time they were winning?
We're good.
Like,
That's
it's just-
probably it.
I'm now out of my depth.
That was just the 80s.
Yeah.
All right, Charlie.
Are
we sure?
we sure the Cowboys are even a 500 team?
I'm sure they're not. I was wrong early in the season when they beat the Browns. I thought that the Browns were a respectable organization and that the Cowboys were going to have some level of competence. And I was down on the Cowboys before the season started. That Browns game, I was like, oh, okay. They'll be competitive. But since then, I haven't seen anything to make me think that they're going to be any good. And then you look at the rest of the schedule, and I don't think that there's a team on there going forward that they are definitively better than. The worst team on there is the Panthers. I guess I'll give them that. They're definitively better than the Panthers.
Better be.
Then they got the Giants. I'm sorry, I know Danny's a Giants fan, but they are not definitively better than the Giants. And that's it. The rest of the teams on them, I think, are better than the Cowboys. So they'll, of course, it's the NFL. They'll win a few more. How many wins they have now? 2? 3?
3.
They got 3 wins now. So you're telling me they're going to get 6 more wins? Nah, no chance.
I am delighted by this. I will say, so we came into this season and so much of the talks about the Cowboys offseason and how they basically botched all the contract situation. I've listened on Danny's brought up on his show how they had the least amount of cash spent of any organization in the NFL and how that was so counterintuitive with the way that Jerry Jones runs his organization. But then after week 1, I was like, Cowboys are just going to be pretty good. Dak Prescott was second in the MVP last year. And for all the, crap that the media give him about not winning in the playoffs, like that team is always going to be pretty good. DeMarcus Lawrence goes out. Micah Parsons goes out. It seems like they are weaponless other than CeeDee Lamb on offense. So, yeah, I am actually with you. I would be shocked if they're a 500 team, with the exception of the fact that I don't know if anyone other than my beloved Commanders are good in the NFC East, which might actually benefit the Cowboys.
I mean, Dallas is an entertainment product. They're not a football team.
Right?
The reality is that Jerry Jones, this season was a success for him when Forbes decided that the Cowboys were worth $10 billion. And that is the beginning. And honestly, like the reason Dallas, like Steve Bisciotti with the Ravens is trying to get a Super Bowl. Jerry Jones is trying to get a Super Bowl while making a ton of money. That is like the number one thing. It's about attention and winning in that order. And that's why they're prioritizing the timing of the contract. They announced the Dak Prescott extension on Sunday morning of week 1 to maximize the attention around the deal. They're getting these, like Jerry Jones, I really believe if you give him truth serum, the reason the CeeDee Lamb deal is getting done in September and not March is because he looks at it as free media.
Yeah.
Like it's free attention. Like, and I think that the Cowboys reflect a team that cares about being paid attention to more than winning. And then you look at, they're the top heaviest team in the league. And every now and then you're like, this team looks like it's coached by a guy who lied to get the job. He did lie to get the job. Mike McCarthy lied to get the job. Every now and then you watch the Cowboys, you're like, it looks like, man, is the owner older than Joe Biden? Yeah, Jerry Jones is older than Joe Biden, man. It's like, maybe you should step aside.
Absolutely. The big lie that he told was that he had modernized his understanding of football and understood analytics before he had a sleepover at Jerry Jones's house. And
watched every play for the Cowboys the prior season.
I love that was the first thing he said at his opening press conference was, I lied. It's just like immediate, couldn't keep it himself anymore.
It's so great. Do you think Jerry's going to do something dramatic this week? Like his radio show? Is he just going to say some wild or is he going to be...
I don't know. I mean, I think that what Danny was saying is something that I agree with and been saying also is that Jerry Jones is programming a reality show. And so I think that honestly, this week is a quiet week for him because this whooping is going to be enough to keep them in the news cycle for the rest of the week. As they start losing more games and they fall out of the picture, that's when he's going to have to say something to get back to the top of the rundown on Get Up on Monday morning. Like that's what it feels like the timing of his statements, and he's been around long enough, the timing of his contract extensions, the timing of everything is like suspiciously perfect that it's always in a period where it will get the most attention, which I guess if that's what you care about at this point, then that's what you care about. And it's hard for me to understand any argument that suggests otherwise because his decisions aren't consistent with that.
We joke on our show that we think Ocean's 11, how they have the casino, they're robbing the casino vault and they have the owner actually accidentally watching a feed of that they pre-recorded. I actually think Jerry Jones is thrilled. It's his birthday. I bet they put on some tape of like they filmed a different game with AI that actually the Cowboys won 50-0 and he must be thrilled. I think he's just watching some feed. He has no idea what's going on.
Oh man. You seen the hologram Jerry's?
Hologram Jerry's.
Hologram Jerry?
There's a lot of them.
In the stadium, they have multiple different places where he like gives you some Cowboy history.
Yeah.
There's a hologram Jerry up there. Oh man, he's got an exit strategy.
Yeah.
He ain't never gonna leave. His physical form may leave, but his exit strategy is to keep Jerry alive in hologram form all throughout the stadium.
Do you guys think hologram Jerry's going to keep running the team when he
I think he's gonna be announcing draft picks, that's for sure.
Oh, are you sure hologram Jerry isn't running the team already?
Hologram Jerry's just going to be like, I love this Jonathan Brooks.
Really makes you think.
Can't elbow a hologram Jerry. Tell him to quiet.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the creepiest parts of the Dallas Cowboys cheerleader show. It's like, now it's time for a museum of cheerleader history. It's hologram Jerry being like, how about them cowgirls? Very, very, very strange. All right, let's time travel back to this morning's game, the London game. The Jaguars, the pride of London, did not show up on their trip.
Sorry, you were saying
on their trip across the pond. The pride of London, their generational footballer, Trevor Lawrence.
Okay.
They got demolished by Caleb Williams and the Bears. Caleb threw 4 touchdowns. This was sort of billed as a matchup of formerly generational QBs. Are we sure this is a matchup of two generational QBs, or is Trevor Lawrence just kind of bad?
I'm just gonna defend him. I'm like, it's like that Gordon Ramsay meme where
Mhm.
you know it's when someone messes up on like Top or was it MasterChef and it's an adult. It's like, what are you, an idiot sandwich? And then when it's a little girl, it's like, oh, there, it's okay. And like, you know, when Bo Nix does something bad, I'm like, you suck. And when Trevor Lawrence throws a mistake and they're losing by 30, I'm always defending him. But I think Trevor Lawrence, I think the Jaguars are a terrible organization.
Mhm.
The Jaguars are a team that signs receivers in free agency based on who played well against them the year before. If you get 100 yards versus the Jaguars, they'll pay you in free agency the following year. It's 3 years, 3 of the last 4. And the Jaguars are a tire fire of an organization. And obviously Trevor Lawrence is awful today. But it's hard for me, big picture, to look in a season where Baker May, I know he didn't have 3 picks today, but Baker Mayfield's balling out for Tampa Bay.
Shred him.
Sam Darnold's undefeated for Minnesota. Geno Smith is at times like the 3rd or 4th best quarterback in the entire NFL. And to look at Trevor Lawrence with Jacksonville, be like, you know what? Lawrence is the problem. Maybe the Jaguars, who've never developed a quarterback ever, are the problem.
You're probably right, and I tend to want to side with the players and blame the organization, but the organization can also ruin a player. And so, like, we can blame the organization for what's happened with Trevor Lawrence, but Trevor Lawrence is bad now, guys. Like, I've been holding out hope, trying to protect sunshine, but, like, it's just...
Sunshine.
Yeah. And one of the things that I always look for like, you want to find glimpses of hope, and Trevor's done that every season, and that's why I think we still hold on to some level of expectation, and that's also why he got the contract that he got. No other player, unless they have the high ceiling that his expectations gave him, and just gave you just a little bit of candy every year, just a little bit of candy, gets that extension. But like, at this point, it's hard to keep holding out hope, and it's hard to blame, or no, it's not hard to blame everybody else, but it's hard to believe that that this isn't who he is now. Like, there's been a big enough sample size that I'd like to see a little bit better out of Trevor Lawrence. And in this showcase moment, when you're looking across the field at the very next, like, Caleb is the next time that we had this level of hype for a quarterback. And you're looking at Caleb, and even when he was bad, like, you had some little glimpses, and then the game today, he was just incredible.
Yeah, last 2 weeks he's been great. I mean, the Trevor Lawrence thing is so tough for, like, me from the fan perspective approaching this, because we also had the last 2 years of, like, I watch a game, I'm like, wow, this is so disappointing. Like, I saw this guy as a freshman win the national championship. I thought it was gonna be like, you know, the next John Elway. But then you'd have the tape people on Twitter tell you that he's still incredible. And it's created this, like, cognitive dissonance where I'm watching this game and I'm like, Trevor Lawrence stinks. But I'm afraid to actually think that, because people who are smarter about football tell me that he doesn't. And I do just wonder, like Danny said, if we're going to see a moment in like 4 years where he's on a different team, or 5 years, and looks incredible.
The thing about Trevor Lawrence is he can make the big, crazy, impressive throws.
Yeah.
And that's what the tape guys get excited about. And there are a lot of drop touchdown passes last year in particular.
Yeah.
So there is a situation where you only ask him to make those throws every now and then, that it will be pretty impressive if he can do that consistently. I guess that's the question, is does he have to have a high volume of attempts to produce those big throws, or are the mistakes the result of them asking him to do too much, or do the mistakes come with the high volume of throws? And if they can eliminate those issues and ask less of him, I think they'd be in a better spot. But like, they haven't really surrounded him, to your point. Like, Evan Ingram's the best receiver that he's had since he's been there, it seems, or at least the one he likes the most.
When a quarterback gets, or any player, but a quarterback gets a huge contract like that, or I guess any player, and then they come in and there's no results, is there any kind of resentment in the locker room?
No, absolutely not. Everybody is happy. So I think there's an expectation for you to do your job, and I do think that the expectations for your job go up if you get a big contract. So there is probably a little bit more resentment, but generally it's like, do your job, whether you're getting $1 or $100 million. If you fail, people are like, it's like, you know, but I think there is some added level of expectation at certain positions. And when you're a new free agent that comes into town, they expect something special from you, because a lot of guys that were there, like, that's my money. You know, like, they went and spent the money to bring you in. But Trevor's been there for a while, so I don't think that. And I think he also, like, there aren't guys in that locker room or on that team that feel like something's owed to them. Like, there aren't veteran guys who've had a lot of success who are looking over at Trevor. And there's not like a lineage of, like, tremendous Jacksonville success where they're looking at, like, you're letting us down. They're just looking at him like, hey, we stink. We thought you could save us, but guess you can't.
Do you want to talk about the Caleb side of this?
I would love to.
Because it's like legitimately fun because obviously stylistically, when you saw him play at Oklahoma and USC, there were shades of, I mean, he was compared to everyone, whether it was Mahomes or Steve Young or whatever fun quarterback you can think of that was your fancy. But in the first couple of weeks, it was bad. I know you looked up the off-target throws, and he was second or third in the NFL with the most off-target throws.
First.
Sorry.
Well, he was first in off-target percentage.
Anthony Richardson didn't qualify.
And they were also first in off targets that like hurt you physically watching.
Yeah.
Like, that was a touchdown. It's painful.
But now, I mean, obviously the last 2 weeks, we should add the context. It was against the Panthers or the Jaguars. Things look incredibly easy for him, which is the fun part. Obviously, he hit the highlight throw today where he rolled out of the pocket, and it seemed like he was not going to be able to get anything behind the ball, and he was able to feather one into Cole Kmet on a crossing route. But when you look at this, how real do you think this is moving forward? Is this like this is someone on the fly figuring it out, becoming like a legitimate franchise quarterback before our eyes? That was so cliche, but that's how I feel.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't want to. I think we learned some things from early in the season that we don't want to get too like high up on a player based on a couple weeks here or there. However, these last two games are rare games for a quarterback or a rookie quarterback drafted at any level in any situation. So the fact that he can do that through the course of 2 entire games, like it's not the way where you see a couple plays, or it's not like he had a good game or a serviceable game or he managed a game. Like he had some wild games. 4 touchdowns is impressive, and the scheme is helping him out some, which is nice to see, which is
also crazy because they were frying Shane Waldron like 10 days ago.
Which it's supposed
to play.
Yeah.
So I don't want to get too over the top in my explanation, but I felt like I was slow to appreciate how good Jaden Daniels was because Jaden Daniels was doing the small things. And then once I started like really digging into the film on Jaden Daniels, I was like, wow, this is sustainable and incredible. And I haven't done like a deep film dive on Caleb, but I do see in the course of the games in these last 2 weeks, although they were against bad defense, him doing the easy stuff well, which I guess I shouldn't call it easy stuff, the simple stuff. Well, and that's the baseline that you want. If you can give me the simple stuff, anything on top of that is icing, and we know the wild plays are going to be there.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate your restraint in saying anything crazy about Caleb Williams. I'll just say it. And by this time next week, Caleb Williams is going to be the biggest Chicago athlete since Michael Jordan. Like, he just will. He just will. Caleb Williams, he's Aaron Rodgers. Like, he's Aaron Rodgers' build. He built his whole game off Aaron Rodgers. He watched, like, all he does in high school is he watched Aaron Rodgers highlights, and you look at him, and you know, there's the exceptions that break, you know, that prove the rule, and only Caleb Williams is really right now allowed to roll to his right and throw back across the field and actually complete it to Cole Kmet for a first down right now. But you watch him, and to your point, I think running the offense, just everything pre-snap, I think the most underrated part of a rookie quarterback is like, forget playing football, getting to the snap alone. You have to do 20 things in 40 seconds. I think the way he's dealing with protections and just getting all that stuff going is really impressive. And then to your point, like, it's a mix of the flair for the dramatic, the scrambling, the plays. But what I liked today, the moment that I really locked into this game was that he pathetically underthrew that touchdown to DJ Moore, and it ended up being an interception, having nothing to do with the coverage of the Jags. It just straight up was a miss. And I was very curious how he'd respond to the adversity, because obviously there were all those things that happened in college where there were moments where you're kind of like, okay, how is he going to deal with losing or whatever? And he locked in, and then they scored 4 touchdowns on the next 4 drives, and everything was pinpoint from that moment on. And I'm impressed with how he's playing. I'm impressed with how he's handling himself. And yeah, it's like more than Eddie Cub, more than Derrick Rose.
I think this is the first time since, I think I said the tweet, this is the first time since 1956 the Bears have had 5 offensive touchdowns in back-to-back games. Literally in 70 years.
Yeah.
I mean, that's this franchise though. Like, even when this franchise is good, like, it's always been on the strength of their defense. And I do think that that's probably been one of the bigger assets to Caleb Williams right now, is that defense has been incredible and given them time to develop and still get some wins, and also give them short fields. And the defense was great again today. And that takes pressure off of the quarterback in a way that I don't think we always can compensate for. And that's the unique part about this situation, him landing on a team like this. That's the real benefit, and giving them time to figure out, and him getting Keenan Allen involved.
Yeah.
And I really like when you come into a game and you hear all the things that they told the commentators that they were going to work on and focus on, and then they actually happen. It's like, oh, wow. Like, you guys know what you're doing. You have a plan and you executed it. And that was one of the things that stood out to me this morning when I was having coffee and watching them beat the dog out of the Jags.
Yeah, actually, following through on, like, Mike McCarthy being like, I want to limit the penalties today, and then doesn't really happen.
Gosh.
It's I feel like I'm so scarred from past quarterback drafts where every 5 years or so, the 2021 draft with Lawrence and Zach Wilson, et cetera, where we're like, this is going to change the face of the league. There are all these guys, and it's like, we're 6 weeks into the season.
Yeah.
And Drake Maye was pretty good today. Caleb's incredible. Jaden Daniels incredible. I assume Penix is going to be good. Like, this is strange.
We want. I don't know, you guys. I whined and whinged the first 2 weeks about offense and points were down. The quarterback, like my main thing thinking today was how unbelievable quarterbacking is right now, and just how all these guys are playing so well.
Sorry,
oh no,
sorry, Charlie. Charlie has a theory that he's about to force.
Oh please,
he's about
do
to
you
foist
remember?
Into your lap.
Do you remember like in February when Adam Silver made a call and basically was like, guys, we need to change the amount of points scored in the end.
Oh,
It's out of control.
And they just stopped doing free throws.
Essentially, they called it prisoner rules, and they were like, we're going to basically allow you to
this longest yard rules.
Yeah.
Michael Irvin, yeah.
I think Roger made a call 2 weeks ago because, like, Kirk Cousins had 520 yards. The pass, like, everyone has 320 yards a game starting exactly 2 weeks ago. I think Goodell heard us all being like, this sucks. Quarterbacks are down.
What's the call?
I think they're allowing
Buffalo Wild Wings?
No, I think
hit a button?
Allowing more holding. I think they're basically allowing the offensive lines to protect. I got some text from Domonique who was like, there's a hold on that play. There's a hold on that play.
Hold on that play. I'm not sure that I agree with your theory, though. We should look. We should actually look up to see if holding.
Yeah, no,
down.
we should look that up because I look at it more as just like, I think I'm going to get a tattoo on my back, like Memento style, that like it just the first 2 weeks are preseason.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, all these teams that didn't play in preseason sucked. And they looked like they didn't have any preseason.
That was nice of you to take Charlie's theory serious and then respond with something
that was
reasonable.
very nice of you.
I just knew as soon as you said that, I saw his face light up and it's like he's about to hit you.
Well, no, I mean it's a fair thing.
He set me up again because we have a question to show that we can just roll through right now on this of. Are we sure we should ever overreact to early season storylines again? Because I want to rip through some ones that were on podcasts, ESPN, et cetera, et cetera. Clint Kubiak is revolutionizing NFL offenses, and the Saints are really, really good. The Texans offense is stuck in the mud. Obviously, today that sort of turned around. The Packers are in deep trouble. We don't know how they're going to be with Malik Willis and Jordan Love out for a really long time. The Ravens at 0-2 are going to be another one of these statistics of teams that became really close and are now going to have a down year. Kirk Cousins is totally washed. Joe Burrow is completely cooked and can't pick up a water bottle. The Cowboys offseason wasn't actually that disastrous. They're fine. They have Dak Seedy and Micah Parsons. That's like 20% of the NFL, and we got everything wrong after 2 weeks of the season.
Was there one that jumped out on you, Daddy? Like, there were a bunch of them that I wanted to respond to. Which one did you like?
The Clint Kubiak 2 weeks of he's going to be a head coach into what's this guy got going on? That one, the Kubiak, I honestly, all the Kubiak sons who haven't gotten the coordinator jobs, I think they're the biggest losers of October so far. Just the Kubiak literal family tree.
I've been so Gruden brained from those TikToks that I was watching the Saints Bucks.
You got the Gruden brain rot?
Yeah, I got such bad brain rot that every time Baker Mayfield would have like one of his ridiculous plays, whether he's throwing 3 interceptions or lighting the Bucks up or lighting the Saints up and running for first downs or throwing touchdowns. Every time he had a play like that, I was just thinking Baker Mayfield, shred him. I couldn't stop.
What was the one that you said that I thought was ridiculous?
The Ravens being the Packers. You read the Packers one, because you were
that was one where I was like, your season's over. I thought,
Jordan Love injury?
When Jordan Love got hurt, given what I knew about Malik Willis and given how competitive I thought that division was going to be, I thought that they were done. And Malik Willis held his own. And that, like, I feel really stupid now. And Jordan Love seems like he's back to the best version of himself right now. So that this team is like a legitimate Super Bowl. Went from the injury in week 1 where I was like, all right, lost year. Let's try it again next year because you're going to lose 4 in a row before Jordan Love can come back, and then it's going to take him 2 weeks to get right, and you're done. But they pulled off a few wins. What did they win? 2. They won 2 games with Malik.
2-0 with Malik, and they started 0-2 with Jordan Love.
And Love came back and lost to the the Vikings. But yeah, this is still a Super Bowl contending team.
He threw a touchdown pass to Romeo Doubs, who had left the team this week. Yeah. He threw a touchdown pass to him today. It's like everything is working for this group.
I mean, I think to your point about Jane Daniels about being hesitant to get in on the hype, and I feel that way too, where, I think sometimes there are takes that are kind of not takes. It sounds like a media brained, but just things you notice that you almost sometimes feel like you have to wait for other people to say because you're afraid to say it. And I think Matt LaFleur is like the best coach in the NFL. Yeah, and Matt LaFleur, like I really, if you had polled every NFL coach and every offensive and defensive coach in the NFL in August and asked who's like maybe the worst quarterback in the NFL, I think they might have said Malik Willis. Mm-hmm. And then Matt LaFleur comes out and goes 2-0 with Malik Willis and just kind of designs an entire run game around him that they hadn't really been doing. And just, I think the creativity, the ability to work with personnel, he has way better results than Kyle Shanahan ever had with way worse personnel. I mean, last year, the fact that frankly, they should have made the NFC Championship game and beat Kyle Shanahan's 49ers with the youngest and least experienced skill group in the history of the NFL. Every significant pass catcher on a rookie contract, and you look at just the overall body of work. I think he's still in the top 5. He was number 1 for a long time, but now he's still top 5 in just winning percentage as a coach. What Matt LaFleur has done is actually, I think, one of the most underrated stories of the last 5 years. I'm
gonna put a little bit of pressure on you. So specifically, I think you're speaking specifically about his offensive acumen, or you mean like, is there something else about his coaching that stands out, or you're just impressed with how he's been able to generate offense very quickly with inexperienced guys? That's what, and also like the Malik Willis, because that's what it seems like you're speaking to specifically, because there are like other things about coaching that I feel like you would take.
Not to hop in here, but in Michael Silver's new book about the Shanahan coaching tree, they talk about Matt LaFleur specifically and how when he was on the Falcons staff with Kyle Shanahan, he was sort of like Matt Ryan's Shanahan decoder. He was like the person who could personally get along with the players, and like Shanahan is like rigid in his system and his style, and LaFleur is much more like, I will actually change and adapt to the players I have and stuff. And I wonder if that's something that comes through in the fact that like Shanahan's system is just like plug in a new guy and go. McCaffrey's out. We're going to use Jordan Mason. It's a bad example because it's actually hurt the team a lot, but you get what I mean. Nick Mullen's going to throw for 4,000 yards in 16 games.
Ooh, my name's Charlie. I be reading books.
Sorry, but it's just defending our guest Danny, who had the exact right opinion about Matt LaFleur being malleable to his talent.
He didn't need defense. I was asking clarifying questions.
Supporting.
Okay. All right. Now, Danny, you can answer now that Charlie's taking his chance to tell us about how many books he's read.
Well, Schwarzenegger. He's like, I'm paid to lead, not to read. But I think to your point, look, obviously there are in-game decision making. I think obviously the NFC Championship game where, he's kicking the field goal, like what was, fourth and what was the plan there? I mean, maybe I tweak it to, I think he's the best game planner.
Yeah.
I think that that Rams game, I forget what year, a couple of years ago. I can't keep track of time post-COVID.
Don't need to.
But they just ran the Rams off the field. Like he's 5-0 versus McVay. And I think he's beaten McVay, I think, every time. This most recent one, the first 4 games were by 12 points each. I think he's the best person within the new Shanahan's, system that's kind of taking over. I think he just can deconstruct his fellow like compatriots. Like I think that he understands them like on a psychological level, and also just frankly, he gets like, I feel like coaching in a nutshell is you're supposed to have the whole be greater than the sum of the parts, and every Matt LaFleur team has always been greater than the sum of the parts.
No, that's excellent. I was giving Charlie a hard time, but his point is
Charlie. I don't like what he said. He doesn't speak for me.
It was essentially the one I was looking for, where it's like there's something we think of Shanahan as like the greatest play designer and whatever, but we've always heard that like the personnel stuff is difficult for him, and that stuff, or the personality stuff, is difficult for him. And I think that has a huge value. And if that's something LaFleur adds to the team, I think that's part of the way that you multiply the success of players, being able to communicate with them and get them to buy into things. Like the Malik Willis thing is kind of outrageous. Like,
and also, but to your point, the personality thing. And again, I don't freaking know these guys, but it's hard not to compare and contrast. Like Romeo Doubs is like, I want to, he doesn't show up to practice, suspended for game. All right, we don't need you. And then with Kyle Shanahan, I just think about that video of Ayuk taking off his pants this last week. But I just think about how they were going to trade Brandon Ayuk, and then he just came to work, and they didn't trade him because he showed up to the office, and Kyle and him talked for 2 hours, and they were literally, they had to run upstairs. And I'm like, to think that they came that close, there is some kind of communication breakdown where he's in control of everything, but he doesn't seem like the greatest communicator.
Tom House Brady's old quarterback coach who's worked with Matt Ryan, referred to Matt LaFleur as the between Matt Ryan and Kyle Shanahan.
Just let it sit there, I guess.
Yeah, that's what it does. It just sits there between the two of them. All right, guys, get your hands up. It is time for the check-in.
Hands up.
The check-in presented by Allstate.
Danny's new to this. I see Danny doesn't know about it.
Was we throwing up the rock?
No. It's just Allstate. We do our simulated Allstate hands.
Oh, good.
The Ravens.
The rock.
The Baltimore Ravens beat the Commanders by a touchdown today in a game that sort of went exactly the way we thought it would, with the Commanders not being able to stop the Ravens' offense and Jaden Daniels having some flashes of being excellent. But one of the things I felt watching this game, it is so easy for the Ravens to move the ball. They have so many options on offense. Lamar is playing some of the best football of his entire career, and this is someone who's been a 2-time MVP. Are we sure the Ravens aren't the best offense in the NFL and aren't significantly better than in years past when they've been the 1 seed and have had this revolutionary offense?
Their defense is decidedly worse.
Yeah.
Than it was last year. That concerns me. But their offense does seem, statistically, I doubt that it's better, but it seems a little bit more fluid. And what it comes down to for me is, and I've always been a bit of a Lamar defender because I was high on Lamar the draft and then he went late. So I felt really good about Lamar playing well, and when people would detract from Lamar, I'm like, come on, everyone has their shortcomings, but Lamar's happened to be kind of glaring with his accuracy. That to me seems to be the simple difference. They've always been able to create matchup advantages because of their running attack, which is because of Lamar, but when their offense is unstoppable or looks unstoppable, it's when Lamar is accurate. And that's what it seems like it's been for the last few weeks, where he is making not even really difficult throws, but he's making the right throw consistently. And it doesn't feel like he's the one pass early in this game that was slightly off target. It still could have been caught, was tipped and became an interception. But there's so many fewer of those type of plays where he just dirts a ball to somebody that's wide open or overthrows someone after he scrambles and creates a little bit of time. Those are the times when the offense gets stale. It's not because, at least in my experience, it hasn't been, or in my memory, it hasn't been because the Ravens got stopped in any way. It's those games when Lamar is just off, and he hasn't had those games anymore. I'm not sure if they're completely behind him, but he sure feels more comfortable. I think the Cowboys game was the last time that I remember. They won that game, but it was the last time I remember seeing Lamar throw a pass where I was he was uncertain about that. He just seems so much more confident in his throwing now, and that seems to be the difference in how this offense looks easy now to me.
Yeah, I think easy is a really good word for it. I mean, I think that Lamar has, he's in the Mahomes territory now where he's made the exceptional and outlandish so routine that we don't even take note of it anymore. But the real noteworthy part might be the routine. He makes the routine all the time. Yeah. And that really is what really raises your game, when you can have it, get you a man who can do both, right? He can just he can beat 5 defenders on one play if he wants, but he also is making the right decision every time. That is again, he's way better against the blitz now. I think he's been exceptional against the blitz this season, which was one of the last things people really had to throw at him. But the other element to it, I think it's underrated how much teams build themselves. The team coming into the next season is really about how the previous one ended. And the Ravens lost the AFC Championship game. Obviously, Zay Flowers, if he had made it to the end zone and L'Jarius Sneed chopped him, he would have made it. But the Ravens had the fewest carries to running backs in that game of any game in the history of the Baltimore Ravens.
Jeez.
5, or it might have been 6, but it's the fewest in the history of the team. And it is not an accident that's when they decided to go and get Derrick Henry. And you know what? People could have criticized paying all that money into a 30-year-old running back. He, so far, knock on wood, has been exactly what they wanted, which was a dude in the fourth quarter to wear other people down the way he weared us down. And it is absolutely the missing piece.
I think there's a chance that Derrick Henry's going to run for 2,000 yards this year. He has 590 yards in the last 4 games.
I've been working with Charlie for too long because there are
you
certain
pointed
things
at me
certain things that you say through the course of the show, and I'm like, oh, you're pressing Charlie's button. You're tickling Charlie just where he wants to be tickled right now. And as soon as you said, I looked at Charlie. He just
call him Elmo. Yeah, I know all the spots.
And I will take that bait and see your hot take and raise it. If he runs for 2,000 yards, that's a problem.
You're saying it's coaching malpractice?
It is malpractice. They brought him in, and I get it.
It's pretty cool.
It's
2000
great.
yards is pretty.
Oh no,
pretty
it's
sick.
It's
Sick.
incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Pretty sick.
We all would enjoy seeing it, but we have to remember that the reason why the Ravens brought him in, the Ravens are, since Lamar's been there, they've been kind of championship or bust.
Mm-hmm.
And this is another season where it's championship or bust. If for whatever reason Derrick Henry is beat up or worn down come January and February because they're trying to get 2,000 yards or they're handing him the ball every play. Like, I get that he seems indestructible, but that is when they have the weapons that they have. That's the dangerous trap that they could fall into. And so it's kind of you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, because it is so clear, to your point, that their identity, if you could pick a player right now to be like, this is this team's identity, it would kind of be Derrick Henry. While Lamar is obviously the best player, but the identity right now, especially on offense, feels like Derrick Henry. So deciding to like load manage him, I get how difficult that has to be, but I don't think in their office this offseason that Eric DeCosta was like, man, we got to get Derrick Henry so we can be first place in the AFC, so we can win our division. We got to get Derrick Henry. So when we are playing the Chiefs or the Bills or whomever else, they can load the box on us and we will say, we don't give a and hand it to Derrick and go ahead and get 5 yards of pop with the box loaded.
You need
5 yards of in a cloud of dust.
Someone to put Chris Jones on his That's like, it's really what it I think their identity is Lamar sticking the ball in Derrick Henry's gut.
Yeah, right there.
And they're just
freeze
reading,
it right there.
And they're just
freeze
like,
it right there.
pick. You want Thunder Lightning. And that's really what's so fun about this in a nutshell. It's like there's been Thunder Lightning backfields, but they're like, actually, they're together. It's Thunderclap.
I also don't think Eric DeCosta thought that getting 30-year-old Derrick Henry, he'd be averaging 6 yards a carry.
I know. I think you're, no one thought that. I think that, and we see averaging.
Yeah, it's 5.9, but it's incredible.
That is insane. Wasn't it? I feel like early in this season, people complained about Derrick Henry not getting the ball enough, right?
In the first 2 games, also, he was really not used on every possession. It was like,
the Chiefs game, they threw a lot because they couldn't block with that so they had Justice Hill out there a lot, and they couldn't run block really at all.
And it's just because I do think that was what they were thinking was we're going to keep Derrick Henry around, but we don't want to put too much wear and tear on him. But then they started handing him the ball. It was like, this toy is really fun.
And they were rotating their line. They were rotating right tackle and stuff, and I think they found it now. Great.
Issues with your line, all the more reason to give the ball to Derrick Henry. Yeah. So, like, he's the one guy in all of football. I don't know. He does it differently than Barry Sanders, but that's the last time I remember thinking, like, it don't matter. I guess Adrian Peterson is another guy where it's like, hey, you guys up front, do something. We're going to get this guy the ball. It's going to work.
So the other side of this Ravens backfield, I want to talk about this because I had this theory coming into the year that, you know how Joel Embiid's probably not going to win another MVP until he wins an NBA title?
Yeah.
Where it's like...
I don't think this was a bad theory. No, I agreed with this theory.
And so coming into this year, I was like, there's just no chance Lamar's going to win the MVP this year.
You could have picked another player, though. Don't call Lamar Joel Embiid, but that's fine.
Sure. It doesn't matter. The idea of it is just that he's won the same amount of MVPs as Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes has 3 Super Bowls. And I thought voters were going to want to give him the award this year, being like, we feel really stupid that every year he's lifting the Lombardi trophy and we don't give him the NFL MVP. Mahomes is still currently the betting favorite for MVP because he's 5-0.
I actually disagree with that one. I thought that the favorite, I thought Josh Allen was the guy coming in that everyone was going to want to give the trophy to and was set up to have that opportunity with him losing the receivers. And I thought he was going to have a great season. And then he got slammed into the ground by the Ravens, and he hasn't been the same since.
But Lamar's going to win the MVP, right? It doesn't feel like that. Like, I know it's really early, and this is going to be really stupid, but like he's the best player this season.
It's such an uphill battle from a narrative standpoint for him.
I have strong takes on this, and I think of this every time. Every time you're on ESPN and on TV, I scream at the television. The MVP is a team award. Because the reality is that the MVP voting is based on the somewhat black and white lens of did you win or lose. And so what always happens is it goes to a team with a first-round bye, always, because it is about the number of weeks that they talked about you positively on television on Monday. And if you lost, you don't get the positive talk. And so that's not just my imagination. I believe every MVP since 2007 has been a quarterback whose team earned a first-round bye. Except Adrian Peterson in 2012, 2,000 yards. If you hit 2,000 yards, a nice round number that us, like, I don't know, pea-brain sports podcasters, media people can wrap our heads around. You want Tyreek Hill to win the MVP, he has to get 2,000 yards. And outside of that, it's a quarterback who won. And again, because it's reverse engineering it. It's 14 weekends. Lamar gets credit. Or I guess it's 17 games now, but it's a 14-win season. It's 14 Mondays where Lamar did a good job, 3 Mondays where he did a bad job. That honestly is the beginning and end of it, and everything else in the middle is noise. And so you just look at it is the team who has the most wins, who's not like a Jimmy Garoppolo on the Niners.
Yeah,
like that's it.
So you don't think that? I mean, this is interesting, but we haven't had a situation like this, I don't think. And that's why I guess, there's two, you can pick somebody from the other conference if Lamar happens to win enough games. But I still think it's really hard for me to imagine a situation. Like, Lamar's going to have to be incredible because I think that there's some people who feel like last season after that playoff loss, and Lamar, like, it was a close race. Like, Lamar didn't run away with it last year. And given his playoff history, I feel like there is some of that plays into the minds of the voters. So I think you're probably right because most years aren't like that. And football isn't like basketball in the way that we hold these players to this championship standard as much, but we do kind of for quarterbacks. I still think that you don't give any discount rate to the fact that Lamar has won 2 MVPs and hasn't had the bigger playoff memorable moments that we would expect.
That's the thing now, and there is a Jokic element to it where they give the MVP to Embiid and then Jokic crushes him and everyone's like, oh, I was wrong, and like that's subconscious in your brain.
But there's no Jokic out there crushing Lamar right now.
Exactly.
There was Mahomes last year in the AFC Championship. That's why.
I think statistically, Jokic is your point, right?
It is, but to your point though about Lamar not running away with it, again, that's when subconsciously people just default to, well, they're the 1 seed.
Yeah.
They're better, and that is where people end up. And so, look, there are probably years if you go back where it's kind of like I think another good example you're talking about is when Derrick Rose won the MVP because everyone got bored of LeBron.
Not LeBron.
Yeah, it's like Aaron Donald probably should have been Defensive Player of the Year more. You know what I mean? But was Defensive Player of the Year? Well, who led the league in sacks?
Right.
And you know what? One year no one got to 16, so they get it. Stephon Gilmore got it. You know what I mean? Like it really is really simple sometimes. And so with the MVP thing, I think that we kind of tell ourselves there's all these rational things, that logical things. If the Bills win 13 games, Josh Allen will get it. But if Josh Allen plays like a superhero, or maybe Matt Stafford's a better example. If Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua don't come back and they're on 12 offensive line combinations in 12 weeks and Matt Stafford drags the Rams to the playoffs, it doesn't matter. Like no one,
That's
like
true.
if you add 8 wins to a team, no one cares if you're 10-7. It's about getting to 14.
That's a fair point. No, I think the way that I've always thought about MVPs for NBA and the NFL is I think it's the protagonist of the season.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like whoever is the season protagonist. And if you are an underdog, you're never going to be the season's protagonist. And I think there are situations like I think what's happening in Kansas City right now is because they're such a public team that you have a really good chance to be the season protagonist. If Mahomes takes this group of not great skill players and a question mark at tackle to second place in the AFC, they don't get the bye, but he plays really well. He puts up real numbers. I think that does matter. I think the same thing for Josh Allen. I think if there's a close statistical race between Allen, Mahomes, and Lamar Jackson, even if Lamar gets the first round bye, I think they would be more prone to give it to someone else because they'll be like, well, Lamar has Derrick Henry. Lamar came up short in the playoffs. We'd probably defer to one of those other guys.
I have this counter part to this part that I've thought about with the Mahomes element of this is that so many people play fantasy football now, and people who have Mahomes or follow fantasy football are like, I want to bench that guy. I don't even want to play him in fantasy football. And then everyone who has Lamar or Josh Allen is like, I am the happiest person in the world.
But you don't think that affects MVP though?
No, but I think that affects this perception and how they're like talked about and thought about over the course of the season.
Mahomes entering villain status. Yeah. 100%. People are Mahomes' career has been like everything about Brady, Manning in the 2000s, but both of them at the same time. Mm-hmm. And Mahomes is absolutely entering the post 2007 version of Brady where people are going to start turning on him.
Yeah.
And it's just getting tired. Like maybe the Warriors are a better example of just like, you know what, I'm tired of seeing this team.
He's Benjamin Button Tom Brady. He's aged back 2007 Tom Brady to 2001 Tom Brady and how he's played for this Chiefs team.
I mean, we got to get Danny to give us some fantasy advice at some point.
Also, wait, I thought I'd be able to give a fun fact. So I'm just saying, whenever you want, I can't.
Okay.
I can't leave without doing it.
Fun fact us right now. Off top.
Cleopatra was born closer to the moon landing than the building of the pyramids.
That's a really fact.
You're welcome on this show. You're welcome anytime. Fact me down. I like that it was just out of nowhere in the middle of the late portion of the show.
Yeah.
This man knows how I like weird stuff.
I had a transition plan for the next,
Shit.
and you know what? I'm gonna power through it regardless. Okay. So we were just talking about Lamar Jackson, which is a perfect time to bring up Jim Harbaugh, because famously, Lamar had his incident.
Cleopatra did too.
Probably. I mean, didn't Egyptians use papyrus for toilet paper? So an important invention. I don't know. Anyway, are we sure Jim Harbaugh didn't have an accident on the sideline? It's been so much like it might be his irregular heartbeat, but there was also reported he had to change his pants.
You just want it to be like, I don't know. I whatever it was very serious, because I can't imagine Jim Harbaugh leaving the field under any circumstance. So
he said after the game his heart issues. You're old. Do you have any heart issues? when you, I assume you're like 70. I assume, have any of the heart issues you have you pooped?
I mean, I do regularly, just not on myself.
Well, no, he said that sometimes his heart rate really accelerates, and he gave like a very intricate medical answer, to which I thought, you sound more likely to poop if your heart's running that fast, not less.
I would think so. I think that they got the win, so I think that he would be happy no matter what happened to his heart or his pants, as long as they win. Jim Harbaugh cares about nothing more than winning, and he believes that he can will himself to anything. One of Charlie's favorite Harbaugh stories. Go ahead, Charlie.
Have you seen the clip of him when he was at San Diego State giving a talk to high school kids?
No.
He is giving a talk to high school quarterbacks, and he's in an auditorium. And you actually might be too young for this, but they used to have these projectors where you'd put like a clear slide on it and it would project onto your science screen. He got so excited yelling, "I must win!" and punching the projector, he just shatters it. And like the school janitor or maintenance person just rolls out another projector to him very slowly, and he realizes it, and he's like, "But I must win," and then lightly punches the second one. It defines Harbaugh perfectly.
I thought you were going to tell him about how he willed himself to 6'2".
Oh, that's another one. Sorry. When Jim Harbaugh was a kid, he said that NFL quarterbacks have to be 6'2". So he's like, I just decided to be 6'2", and I drank enough milk and thought about it enough until I grew to be 6'2", even though no one in my family was above 6 feet tall.
Maybe drank too much milk today. That might have been part of the problem.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, I'm lactose intolerant. That's what happens to me if I
Every
drink too
time?
much milk. Well, I mean, I can't do it anymore.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no. I also willed myself. That's how I ended up being 6'2".
Domonique, it's all of us are on a scale of lactose intolerance.
Oh.
It's something that me and Danny.
You're saying it's a spectrum?
Not me.
Okay, the next one. Are we sure the Eagles? I don't know if you guys saw this. Nick Sirianni fighting with fans after the game.
Oh,
they won by 4 against a Browns team that whose defense outscored their offense today. Are we sure the Eagles should feel good about barely beating Deshaun Watson and the Browns?
We're sure they shouldn't. I guess they should feel good about getting a win, but I think that it took me a long time to get to this point, but I think I got there before a lot of people. The Eagles aren't good. Plain and simple. They aren't good. They haven't been for a long time. They're not good. A.J. Brown's back. Maybe he'll make them good. He's good.
He's really good.
The Eagles aren't good. Like, you go back to last season, it's a lot of names that we remember being good and we expect to be good, but for much of last season, they had a lot of single one-score game wins and a lot of struggles on defense, and they haven't addressed them. This season, they haven't been good. They haven't been good in a long time. Jalen Hurts has gotten worse. Eagles aren't good.
It's very much history rhymes. It doesn't repeat, but sometimes it rhymes. And you look at that Eagles run, they won the Super Bowl and they just collapsed, right? Yeah. And Doug Peterson's fired 2 years later. And ironically, I think that if the Eagles had lost this game, Nick Sirianni and Doug Peterson might have ended up fired on the same day. But this is very much the same era. Like they paid Wentz and then they got to get rid of him and they paid Hurts. I'm not saying they got rid of Hurts, but you look at this team. I mean, I'm always amazed. Hurts cannot throw on the run, which, you know what I mean? Even when he's trying to put it, he just always goes out of bounds. But I look at this Eagles team and number one, I totally agree. It's just a bunch of names you remember being good, but frankly, like losing the Super Bowl broke their brains. I wonder about that with the Niners playing the Chiefs next week, where if they don't win that game, I think the whole season could come off the rails. But I'm curious about. I actually am thrilled to be able to ask you this question. If as an NFL player, what do you see in a win? Like you won the game, so it's good, but like you really almost lost to the Browns, and the Browns are the worst team in the NFL, maybe. And your coach is yelling at fans, heckling. What is your reaction to that?
So you say as an NFL player, like it's different than anybody else. It's the same way your reaction would be to that. The same way anyone's reaction would be to that. The fact of the matter is, if it's out of nowhere, it's a surprise, then the reaction is, what the hell? All right, we'll get back to work. I don't know what got into him. But if it's Nick Sirianni, you're like, this and I assume that that's their reaction. You go all the way back to the Super Bowl where Jalen Hurts is telling him to stop talking trash. Like the quarterback is telling the head coach, like, settle down. We're in the Super Bowl. Relax. And he's like, this isn't the first time he's had yelling matches with fans. I guess it's the first time he had it with his own fans. But like, he just feels like a guy where it's one of those things where when everything's going well, it's okay. You kind of think it's cute or funny, but you also are like, it's a little weird, but okay, it's cool. But when things are going bad, you're like, gosh, like it's just frustrating. And I assume that's how you would react too if you like had that one friend who's always like, you're like, man, we can't bring Charlie out anymore.
Yeah, he's that friend who gets in the fight in the bar, and you're like, I will defend him, but like I hate that he's my friend. You're embarrassed. Yeah, it's funny. It's every coach now wants to leave college for the NFL because college is a nightmare with NIL. And Nick Sirianni is going to have to go back to college. Shout out Shil Kapadia, who I work with at the Ringers, pointed this out, where it's like he's going to get fired, and he's not getting another NFL job because he's not going to be a coordinator. Who would do that? He's not going to be a quarterback's coach. He can barely be in the same room as Jalen Hurts. What's he going to do? Be a receivers coach? He has to go back. And ironically, the rah-rah is going to work in college. Like, I don't think he'll ever work in the NFL again, to be totally honest with you.
This is his last chance. Jalen Hurts better save his job. I guess Jalen Carter needs to save both of their jobs.
Yeah.
Like, honestly.
All right, last question for this. The Patriots put in Drake Maye today. And one of the things
I know what this is.
Well, so one of the things we talk about on our show a lot is that high draft picks are all talented and are all good, and situation defines their success more than the player themselves.
That was nice of you to say we. You didn't put it all on me.
Well, you've taught me a lot of this stuff because I had a different take initially.
Nurture over nature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, Drake, the Patriots are, in a lot of ways, a disaster. They don't have the offensive line. They don't have the weapons. They don't have a Shanahan scheming this up to make things incredibly simple and easy for them. And Drake Maye played pretty well. He did have an Anthony Richardsonian interception today, but other than that, like, he looked like an NFL quarterback.
I didn't realize we're a derogatory term.
No one loves Anthony Richardson more than Charlie, so he's allowed to. You can't do it, though.
No.
I have 5 years of hope left for him. But are we sure Drake Maye shouldn't have been playing all season?
Slow down. Slow down would be my response. He looks big and sturdy out there, I know, but he's had one reasonable game. That offensive line is still bad. They still do not have like a game breaker as a playmaker. I don't know. I think what happened today was encouraging, but I don't know that having him out there any sooner would have made this any better. I'm not sure that it would have made it any worse, but I think the way that it went now, it's nice to come in and be the savior. It's nice to have some weeks where you get to watch how the team prepares, watch where mistakes are made, and then come in. I do think that if nothing else, this season, they knew before the season started that this season wasn't going to be a championship run. If they thought that that was the best way to develop this quarterback, then I think that so far, it's looked like it's worked out pretty well. It doesn't mean that it's going to be perfect going forward, but I think that him coming in now in a soft spot and putting up some impressive stats and bouncing back from a turnover, like, that's encouraging. But let's relax. I still stand by my belief that the situation matters more than the player.
I have no doubt on that. I mean, you just look at the quarterbacks who were quote unquote good draft picks. It's like Russell Wilson went to the best defense in the 20 years. Patrick Mahomes, they had won 12 games without him. Josh Allen, they had made the playoffs 2 years earlier. The Ravens won 9 games before Lamar. Like, you go on and on. But to Drake Maye, you know what? It doesn't matter. Like, it's fine that they sat him the first 5 weeks. It's fine that they played him the 6th. It's not going to upend his career either way. I think, frankly, everyone was probably right. Like, he did look way better. He had more touchdowns today than the Patriots had all season entering the game. Also, he did get the stuff knocked out of him. Like, I did think he was going to break his arm like chicken wing style, like multiple times in this game. So, you need to learn to play, but I think he looked really good. But yeah, he looked like a rookie in his first game, and this whole season is just about him anyway. So
it's really exciting that all these quarterbacks are stylistically so unique. The top 3 guys, like Daniels, Caleb, and May, are all going to be like vastly different and all be very good, which is fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the most exciting part, is that it seems like they're going to be good, and then you put it on top of adding C.J. Stroud to the fold last year. Like, we went from a situation where like Mahomes felt like it was his league to now we have like not just Lamar and Allen, but we got some young guys that are coming up that out of all of them, 1 or 2 of them have to be threatening for the top of the league at some point, which is awesome and cool and fun for everyone who has quarterbacks. Congratulations, Charlie. I'm sorry, Danny.
Oh, you say Daniel Jones is not as good as C.J. Stroud?
He had a good week last week. I don't know what he's doing. He's
I was
going to
say, you don't know. Maybe they might be up 40-10 on the Bengals right now. You don't know. Anything could be happening.
I think it's still 7-0 on the but I think the Bengals are still up 7-0 while we're taping this.
Daniel Jones, but you don't know how he's playing. He could have surpassed C.J. Stroud by the time we started recording.
Okay. All right. We'll end it here. But oh, sorry. You got one more thing?
I have one piece of cleanup before you end the show.
Oh, did we mess something up really bad?
No, I messed one thing up.
All
Egyptians did not use papyrus as toilet paper, but they did invent fiber supplements. They were taking like ancient Metamucil back in the day. So there was a bathroom connection.
That was
there.
important.
Okay, that's all.
The last question I was going to ask, is there a level of play high enough, you as a Giants fan, that would make you happy to extend Daniel Jones and make him your long-term quarterback, or you not want to fall into that trap again?
I think of me and Daniel Jones as like Ben Affleck and J-Lo, where
which one are you?
I'm Ben Affleck.
Oh, okay.
I'm the one with the dragon tattoo staring into the sea. And I'm just like, we got him that big green ring that I assume also cost like $100 million, $92 million guaranteed, not returnable. We checked the policy. And I look at Daniel Jones is every time he's almost like the Steelers as a guy, where like every time you count him out, back in, and then every time you're like he's good, totally lays an egg. And then I'm torn. I think the best case scenario you could build for Daniel Jones is he is the new Andy Dalton, exactly as good as the talent around him. And when the Giants offensive line is blocking and Malik Neighbors is there and Brian Daboll's like actually really doing good scheme stuff, that like Daniel Jones, actually, he is solid. I almost want to throw out the Thursday Night Football game in week 1. The optimistic in me is those were good performances. He's been performed well outside of Thursday. It's a Thursday, who cares? In week 1 with the Vikings, no shame in there. The flip side is he's exactly as good as everyone around him in a league of just superheroes. I'm like, all right, cool. I don't need a mirror. And also you know what? He's just a clone of Eli Manning, and the Giants he's just a rebound who looked like their ex, and now they're going to like stick with him. And it's really upsetting to me.
I'm sorry. Sounds like you don't want to keep him. You don't want to answer the question, but I got it. Yeah.
I want to be extricated from this relationship.
All right, good.
I need a friend to intervene.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Danny Heifetz. You didn't give us any fantasy advice, but if people want your fantasy advice, they can go to the Ringer Fantasy Football Show. Check out Danny. Those guys have a good time. They're really silly.
Yeah, no, sometimes we know what we're talking about, but it's fun because a lot of times we don't.
I didn't mean that as, you don't know. I mean...
Oh, no, I don't. No,
does anybody really think that they can win a fantasy football league based on knowing stuff? Like, that's not how you win fantasy football, is it?
We're the Wizard of Oz, man. We're just trying to have a good time in the yellow brick.
Yeah, exactly. It's fun. It's about fun. Anybody who's trying to, like, think that they're going to outsmart everybody. Yeah, unless you have a crystal ball, you know who's going to get injured, then... or the one third-string running back that's going to suddenly have 1,000 yards, then you just rolling dice like the rest of us. All right, Charlie. Thank you so much, Charlie. Great show by you. We're still presented by Allstate. Domonique Foxworth Show still presented by Allstate. Throw them up, and we're out.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.